Hey, everybody, welcome to the Middle Ground. Mike, Eric, welcome to the podcast.
Hey, Joseph, thank you so much for having me. I'm really grateful to be here, man.
Yeah, like I was saying, I really like the fact that your background with AI, and it's something that like what made me go, hey, let's do this. Is I played a lot, like I was telling you, I played around a lot with AI. Like probably the last 6 months or so, I've really kind of just started to jump in. Right, I always heard all the rumors about the algorithms and Facebook, this, and I know those exist, right? But that's kind of all I ever really understood about it. And algorithms per se aren't even AI, but that's just and like I was saying, talking about how to get people to not be afraid of something that can be a tool, right? Like I kind of use in my mind AI is kind of like everybody thought that the washing machine was going to put certain things out of business, or like when cars came around, hey, nobody's ever going to need a horse again, or the people who made the horseshoes were going to go out. It's just all this fear. And I think the biggest fear around AI is I'll say it, Terminator 2 / Skynet. People
Yeah.
have it in their head when they think of AI, they think of AI taking over all the nuclear bombs and killing everybody. So what do you think about like the big fear with AI, just like as like an in general part of it, and diving deep?
So I would say, anything is possible in this world, but the way I view AI is the way I view any other technology. So I view every technology as a neutral thing. Like I have this cool little Asian ninja
Yeah,
kunai knife. It's like I can use it to harm someone or I can use it to cut a pizza. The knife itself is neutral. Who decides if it's good or bad? It's the user. And I can tell you from working in AI that the majority of people who are building AI are good people trying to improve the world. And honestly, a majority of the users of AI, so the majority of normal people, like I would say 95% of people are overall good people too. So if the majority of builders, despite what the media is pushing, but the majority of builders and majority of users of AI are good, then AI is going to be inherently good for the world. And I think it's going to usher in an age of abundance because I believe in a couple of things. So I think people are happiest serving other people. So like if I give away $20, I feel much better than if I take $20. I think
feel weird
money's
about
in,
it.
yeah, it's like, but and I also believe in authenticity. So like you're the number one you in the world. If I try to be you, I can't beat you at being you because you're you, and you're number
Right.
one. But if you try to be me, you can't beat me at being me because I'm number one. And again, like money's a neutral thing. So if you make a lot of money helping a lot of people, that's a good thing. And AI is simply a tool for you to better do that. So for example, 50 years ago, if I was born in the slums of the Philippines, I'm Filipino. So if I was born in the slums of the Philippines, that's just kind of my life. It is what it is. But now with technology like AI, I can use it as a lever to leverage my natural talent. So let's say e-commerce is like e-commerce shoes are my jam. That's my passion, whatever. It could be anything. But now with AI, I can create a website. I can create the copy. I can create the Shopify store. I can create the code. I can do a bunch of things I couldn't do before. Basically, I had an idea in my brain to basically manifest it in the physical world in the form of a product or service quicker than I could have without it. And if everyone's doing that at scale, people are going to create much more. And you've been seeing this in AI too, because you're kind of getting into it. It's like a bunch of people are trying a bunch of things, like a bunch of people are creating video generators. The next phase is going to be a bunch of like still photos. So like it's going to let people do what they do best. And yes, there will be some job loss, but that could be a good thing too. Let's say AI takes away the job of something that you're not fully passionate about. You now have time and opportunity to find something that you actually are passionate about. But it's definitely not something you want to ignore because you'll probably get left behind if you do ignore it.
Yeah, I work in. I won't say the company, obviously, for a reason. But I work in the QSR industry, quick service industry for food, right? And AI. We don't, obviously, there's certain parts of it we use and we don't. One of my competitors uses AI for order taking, and you can tell that it recognizes you a little bit, even though it says it doesn't, because it'll offer you certain things. Hey, would you like that? Would you like a large Mountain Dew with that today? And it's like, ironically, I drink, and it doesn't bother me because it's like, I tell people, I'm like, if your picture's on the internet, I hate to hurt your feelings. It's already, if you're worried about that kind of stuff, game over. It's already game over. If that is your true deep, because once things go on the internet, it's very hard for it to disappear.
It
But
doesn't. And
it's a good tool. So the company that I work for, they're talking about, hey, we want to roll this out, but it wouldn't be something that would take a job. It would take the order taking position, right? But sometimes I may say hello one way, you may say it another way. So sometimes it gets confused, which is okay, but it'll learn, right? But it frees that person up to go do another task that can help move the line quicker, which actually help the business generate more money, give better customer service. But where that can be a downside to certain older people is they like hearing that human voice, right? But you can request it, but in not all situations, I don't think it always takes a job away. Some it will definitely take some jobs, but that's just part of the course, right? I mean, what was it? Computers essentially took away typewriters, right? I is there any? I don't even know if there's any companies that make typewriters.
Be able to find one, but
Yeah, but
like you said,
you can find the cartridges on like eBay, I think, but like I don't think anybody really like. I'm sure there is, but nobody like no big companies mass producing a typewriter anymore. But those people all went into different jobs. So I don't think AI is it's the fear, and so I think like somebody from your perspective who's done a lot of work like in the back end, right? Like I'm more of like somebody who kind of uses the easy side of it, if you want to call it that. What is a way like, hey, I'm trying to think of the best way to put it. If we do like, okay, like you were saying, like we're talking about like the fear and like the dating part, right? Like for the app that you're working on, how would people attribute to, hey, what they're seeing is real? Because I'm sure you've heard a lot of websites out there. People be like, hey, some of these dating websites, you'll see the articles. 80% of the users are fake.
yeah, no, that's correct. And that's something we specifically fight about. And the scary part about those fake users is a lot of times the most dating apps, they use it as a way to draw in users for them to complete the subscription. It's like, hey, you have 20 matches. Well, they're all bots. And the issue with that in AI is those bots are getting better and better because AI is like, if I wanted to, I could also take a screenshot of you and then whip up 20 different profiles with 20 different Jason Stiegel like bios pretty easily. And that's what we're differentiating. The problem with that is like, if you're spending time talking to a bot, that's an opportunity cost. That's time with the right person. It's honestly just a waste of time on your part, which is not good for the entire dating marketplace. So what dating is, it's the first ever AI powered matchmaking service. And the goal is to enhance human connections by matching people who have a high likelihood for compatibility, but they still have to meet in person. So for example, it solves three main issues with dating apps. So the big three issues I would say are the top 5% of users get access to everyone on the app, which creates like a skewed marketplace. The second issue is like let's be real, like Tinder's hot or not, like swipe left, swipe right, solely based on good looking. That's not a good way to make a match. And the third is incentive structure. So if Tinder were to match a happy couple, what does this mean? It means that the happy couple then leaves the dating app, resulting in a loss of paying customers. So there's misalignment between the user base and the shareholder base. And Tinder's working with Goldman Sachs, and Goldman Sachs would sell their own mother for $5. So that's why
Right.
you hear about the design is like it's called churn marketing. So it's keeping people on the Ferris wheel. So if you ever heard about someone delete the app, down the app, delete the app, that's all by design. Whereas what dating is, it's different. So what we do is because AI is really good at pattern recognition at scale and analyzing large amounts of data. So what dating does is it auto generates dating profiles and matches based on a user's digital footprint and chat history with Cupid. So for example, if you were to create a profile, you're going to link your photos, you link your Pinterest, like whatever, chat with Cupid, tell what you're up to, and it would generate a bunch of tags for you, the correlation. So be like, okay, he's a zero 0.8 Lions fan, 0.95 Mortal Kombat fan, zero 0.4 likes to go biking, and just a bunch of tags for you. And then you would get matches based on those tags. So it may match you with a girl who's like also really into Mortal Kombat, or really into Sega, or really into Tekken, because you never know, Tekken might link well with Mortal Kombat. So it'll put you in the position to succeed by matching with compatible people. And the cool thing is, because AI is so good at pattern recognition, it's gonna match people. It's gonna pick up stuff that people miss. So like you're wearing like let's say you like Mortal Kombat. It's like, okay, this guy really likes Mortal Kombat. Let's match him and we'll make a match with a person who likes Indian food. And to us, that may not make any sense because like I don't see the correlation. But at the same time, on the back end, the AI has seen that correlation happen so many times that it's picked up on that. It's like, okay, whatever, for whatever reason, people like Indian food. like Mortal Kombat, and that's what people do. So they'll start testing out stuff that a lot of humans will miss. And the cool thing is our incentives are better too. So after the match happens, it can switch and act as a relationship butler. So you would have like if you're on Twitter, you just at Grok stuff and it kind of gives you answers. It's the same thing, but within a chat with either a friend, a current partner, or a new match. So like you'd be like, hey, this girl, what do you think we should do for our first date? And it'll give you a really good answer based on both parties. And this is an issue with ChatGPT that we actually solve. So you can think of dating as one of the first layer twos on top of ChatGPT. So every time ChatGPT gets a benefit, we reap the benefits. But an issue is like, how people are like asking ChatGPT for advice. It's like,
Yeah,
what should I do on this one?
yeah, for
It's
sure.
it's really just giving you a mirror based on what, because like you mentioned with the food thing, it's like it knows you. So if you ask Chat, take a screenshot of like, oh, what does this girl mean when she says that? Give you an answer, but the answer is based on what it knows about you. So it's actually giving you a reflective answer based on what it knows about you. And of course, because it's your answer, you're like, I love that answer. It makes perfect sense to
So
me because it's my answer. But
it's a
with
yes
dating,
man.
yeah, yeah, it just enhances you. It's like, oh, you're amazing. It just rides you too hard. But with dating, it takes into account both parties, so it'll give you a better answer that works for both people in the relationship, which is important if you're in a relationship with someone. And not only does it work with dating, it works with friends. Like me and my friends honestly use it just kind of rag on each other because I like anime. That's my nerdy thing. So we're always like, who is which character in this anime thing? And we always make fun of the person who's like the shitty character. It's like, haha, idiot. But like you can ask for like different things. Like you can match with the current partner. Like you can match with your, like you mentioned, your sons have a specific ability. Like let's say you meet a girl. I'm not sure if you're single or not, but let's say you meet a girl, and then she can use that to help her interact with her sons because of the relationship aspect. We're talking with colleges too about helping them find their dorm mate, because instead of like a rando dorm mate, it's like, oh, we can use AI to match a better dorm mate for a better college experience. So it's really just a connection building up.
Yeah, that's crazy that it's going to be able to take into account both parties, and I think that once people can understand that part, and once that kind of like gets comfortable, and people go, hey, I don't have to have that fear that the person I'm talking to on the other end isn't really there.
Yeah. And
And that is like, because like some of these sites, they charge like for like dating, they charge like crazy money, right? I think like Be Harmony felt like the professional thing or whatever. It's like $200-300 if you want all this crazy stuff, right? I think it can go up that high for design. And to
and the
me,
thing is,
that's
if
like,
you're,
it's not necessarily like a bad thing, but if the other person on the other end isn't real, or if the other user isn't a real human being, you just spent a whole lot of time and money. Like you were saying earlier, that's going to discourage someone, and then they're going to get lonely again. They're going to come back.
and it should too. And honestly, a lot of the way that they work their algorithm for a lot of dating sites, it is pay to play. So unless you're paying for the app or service, you're not getting shown on matches, and a lot of people remain invisible. And this is just a conspiracy theory, but I think it's kind of like a pipeline, like of I guess misery. So most dating apps are owned by OnlyFans, or no, most dating apps are owned by Match.com. So there's a monopoly in the space, and I've noticed the longer you're on the app. Like, so let's say I go on Tinder, I tell them what I'm looking for exactly. I'm like, oh, look for this, and I give my description, and then I start to see ads for more obscure dating apps for the exact type of description I was looking for. So like for me, Filipino, I'm looking for Filipino. I'll start to see Filipino specific ads, and you sign up because they go, that's exactly what I want. But then I suspect that they're populating the profiles on that app with either just repurposed profiles, because they probably do have the ability to do that with some legal bullshit, or just bots. So you found that app and it sends you more to more obscure ones. So you get like really random ones. So like at the end of the funnel, I was getting like Ukrainian bride ones and just like really weird ones. So I think it's sending you down a funnel, and I think they're sending you to like OnlyFans. I think they're profiting off of that. And the
Wow.
cool thing about dating is the way we work is like you connect different social media sites and sources to create your profile. So the profile is auto generate. So like if you add a new interest, like let's say you get into pickleball or something and you start posting about pickleball, it's like, okay, he's into pickleball, it updates, and then your profile reflects that because you're changing people. But that also helps with bot prevention too. So like I said, I could just whip up a billion profiles. Honestly, I could just whip up a billion profiles. We would just like have infinitum. I'm not sure why I would do that, but it's a lot harder to fake if you have to connect like a Gmail account, a Pinterest, like 4 or 5 different data sources. So the more data sources a person connects, the more self-verified they are. And we have a flagging system too. So if like you can easily pick up if it's like, okay, maybe they connected to Twitter, but they have no posts, so they're just all recent. So you can pick up bot behavior that way. But the more data sources you connect, the more likely you are to be talking with a real person. Because I think we have some of the best bot protection in the industry. Partly because we don't profit off of bots. A lot of times they have bots on their system, but think about like from the systems point of view, they're trying to show metrics. They're trying to show like interactions, matches, all that stuff. And people are, and they obviously just count the bots, and they're like, we
Right.
don't know that these are bots, but it really does benefit them.
I think what did Musk say when he bought Twitter? How many? I think it was like he said like half or some crazy number.
Oh,
Like
have
were
you heard of the
bots.
dead internet? Have you heard of the dead internet theory?
Uh. What
Yeah,
is
so it's
it?
like so it's 90% of the internet's like bot activity now, and I kind of believe it.
Yeah, because you're on there. I don't use X too much like I used to. It's not that I don't like it. It's just there's just so much like I want to say like negativity, right? Because that's not the way to say it, but it's just
No, there is negativity,
yeah,
and it's by
like
design.
everything's hostile on there, and it's like, hey, can't we all just hang out and have fun? Like there's no need to attack each other, constantly over everything.
Agreed.
And I'm gonna just when you're just on there, man. Like sometimes there's been a couple times where I've kind of like not like a vicious way, but I'll be like, hey, no, this is this. I'm like, did you actually check this out? You know what I mean? This is what I seen. But then people just like they just start going after you, and you're like, okay,
Like
okay,
Jesus Christ.
yeah. You're like, all right, I'm never even gonna see this person in life. I don't know them, so I'm just gonna like go on about my day now. It's kind of like if you're to me, certain people on the internet you got to treat as if you were walking down the street and they just start screaming random names at you, and you're like, all right, buddy, see you later.
Yeah, don't even acknowledge. Just like
Yeah, and it's wild, but like with AI, and something that I kind of have looked a little bit into is with AI. They were kind of talking about with it being able to help the medical field, right? Help eliminate
yes,
a lot of mistakes. I've heard Watson mentioned a lot, but there's a lot of other avenues that are going towards it. But I know a lot of people like have this fear, and I have that fear too. Not like fear, let me rephrase that. That the hesitation sometimes, right? Like when there's certain things, I want to hear it or see it from a human. I got no issue if it's the AI that helps them figure it out, no problem. But in some situations, like you get a test done from the doctor. I mean, if it's obviously if it's something like you might be dying, they're going to call you in, right? But a lot of the time, a lot of these results just come from a computer, boom, 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 and there's no human interaction. And I had a test done on my knee, I don't know, a couple of years ago. I partially tore a meniscus, and I was carried 4 sheets of drywall up a flight of stairs by myself. Terrible idea, by the way.
yeah,
But I did it. I did it.
nice.
But I got the results. They call it like a My Chart. I don't know if that's like a nationwide program or not. And it didn't have like any explanation or anything on there. It was just pure statistical data. You know what I mean? And like what the computer put on there. And it's like, now, granted, I had to go to the doctor to get the update. You know what I mean? But it's like, hey, uh, to me, if they're going to use AI to do certain things, when they upload that result to your chart, whatever that you want to call it, it should be a little bit more in, I don't know, what do they call them, generic terms, or at least some kind of basic outline. Like, hey, it could be, I don't know, you banged your head in the wall. This is what we've seen. Please contact your doctor. And I feel like AI could help bridge that gap.
Oh, yeah, no, like AI can. And I was on a podcast recently for doctors specifically, and they're talking about use cases for AI. And the conclusion we came up with and agreed is just it's a tool to help doctors, but I don't think it should replace the human. No one thinks it should replace the human to human contact. But like, for example, AI really good at pattern recognition at scale. So imagine if AI had all the hospital data in the United States, it could pick up symptoms that could help prevent a curable disease that we would have missed. So like it could be like, okay, these people who develop this specific symptom at this age are much more high likelihood to develop this disease. So if you have that, let's get ahead of it. Let's get it checked out. But the doctor's also going to be the one to make the final decision because AI, as helpful it is as it is, like you said, like your videos and all that stuff, like it needs a human to prompt, it needs a human creativity, it needs a human to tell you look at this. And with the chart mumbo jumbo, like I do this all the time. Like I'll feed it like complex. I'm like, read this to me like I'm a sixth grader. But I get 3 sentences and it makes perfect sense. Like I could easily just feed that. But like Imagine you're a doctor, like, because we talked about this specifically, like they're going through rounds, like where there's like patient after patient, but like they don't really, like, they're only human. Like it's hard to remember all that stuff. But if they were able to run each specific patient's data through AI before they did their rounds, it could much better help the patient. And on top of that, like you can even like incorporate dating back into that or any other matchmaking thing. It's like you can match the right patient with the right doctor, because like a patient doctor relationship is actually pretty important. So like if you are like you're really sick, you're scared, you want someone you actually vibe with, you actually get along with, you
Yes.
have some commonalities. So that could also be a good use case for AI to help that. And of course, there's tons of administrative bloat that I'm sure just can be.
Oh yeah.
That's probably a whole thing.
I've had my family doctor for, we're in 2025 now, right? Okay. I had to think what year it was. So I think going on, that's 15, so almost 20 years, maybe a little over 20 years in that ballpark, and it's just like that connecting thing, right? Like he's dry. My wife hates him, and not in like a bad way.
Yeah.
She's just, I don't know. She's just something, but he's, like I go in there and he's a doctor that when he walks in the room, he sits down. Family doctor. He sits down and he actually has notes in there to remember about who you are as a person, not just what your issues are. He'll come in and say, "Hey, how's your son doing? How's this doing? How's it working out for him? How's this going? How are you feeling? How's your job? He knows where I work at." And it's like, okay, like, and I feel like if AI could match more people to doctors, that maybe obviously, not everybody gets along to that degree, right? But match people to where they could, like you were saying, like the dating thing, right? But like match them to where they think of certain things, and like, or like hey, I know that person A responds better to this kind of talk. And well, we know this doctor kind of flows this way. Boom, now the insurance company can match it. Where that would be a great thing for the insurance company is you're more likely to solve problems and keep costs down if that patient's more willing to be open with their doctor.
100%. No,
Yeah,
that's a great use case. And it's better for the doctor too. Like, again,
right.
like I've seen House, I've seen Scrubs, where it's like you want the doctor patient to actually get along, because then it just helps both parties.
I mean,
And
Lord knows, I'm sure you've ever seen the show House.
I like that show a lot, actually.
Yeah, he would have done crazy things with AI. He
Because
probably could have cured everything.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, because it's going to enhance his natural abilities. So
Yeah.
it's like House with just like a superhuman, like, how he had his team, like, like a lot of times I'll like them do grunt work and all that research and all that stuff.
Oh yeah.
Like, like he'll have them investigate the house of the patient to find the cures.
Mm-hmm.
If the patient had an AI profile, or even like scan, like, for example, like scan a video of the house of the AI person, run that through AI, it can give House some raw materials he would need to work with to do his magic, and then he can work all that much faster.
Yeah, I mean, I just would be, that part of it would be great, but I would be afraid to see what House would do when he gets one of his little things where he wants to mess with someone.
He'd be. I mean, it's just, AI again, neutral tool. You can use it for harm. You can use it for good.
Oh yeah.
For House, I think we're fine. I think he'll do 80% good, but probably mess with people like 20% of the time. But I wouldn't want to be on the receiving end.
Oh yeah, I'd probably go after Wilson.
We can use the pattern recognition for like the picking up symptoms early. Like I could use it personally if I wanted to warn people and they can get ahead of it. Great, I can. That's a good way to use it. But the same exact AI, the same data set, I could be a pharmaceutical company and then use that to make money somehow with the same data. It really just depends on the people using the AI and the people uploading the data. So it's a
Yeah.
neutral thing. But luckily, I think most doctors get into help people. So I think we'd be in a good case, a good situation.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a good thing. So I guess like another way to talk about, like when we're talking about like the fear of AI, right? What are some like daily things that you think of? Because obviously you've worked on multiple platforms with this, which is like crazy to me. You know what I mean? Like it's awesome, and it shows a lot, right? So like day-to-day tasks like that humans do, right? That I'm trying to think, like, or maybe you can elaborate on that you see coming, that people shouldn't be afraid of, to let AI help them with. Like what are some things that, like, a natural person might go, I don't know, but AI can help them enhance their life, just like basic day-to-day stuff that they shouldn't be afraid of.
In terms of anything that's just kind of monotonous, I use AI for that. So any sort of emails, I like to run AI for. So if it's someone I don't know, I'll run it through AI and then proofread it. But if it's someone I personally know, I'll just write it myself, just out of I think it's a respect thing, and I think people can pick up with it. People can pick up between AI and non AI content. I think people are they're naturally like to AI content, and that makes sense because it's kind of fake. Honestly, I pretty soon it's going to be able to plan your day. So even with me for the dating app, it can predict. I was able to A/B test, and it was able to predict what I was going to do the next day based on the pattern recognition, the memories of that. So maybe having a plan your day, like I was like, so what I did is I did my day as I normally would on Saturday, and on Sunday I was like, what do you think I did yesterday? And it's like based on memories. So like the doctor is writing it down. Our AI is picking up memories on that and is able to actually predict what I did based on how much I've chatted with it, which kind of can seem pretty creepy at first to some people, but I'm like, I don't care. It's my AI. It's there to help me. So I just leverage that's like, okay, it knows me pretty well enough to predict my day. Maybe it can help me plan where I'm going to eat. So it helps me with all that stuff.
Well, I
And to
mean,
really
yeah,
stream,
the ever loving debate of where are we going for dinner.
what the AI decide that.
Yeah, well, I mean, humans are for most things, right? I mean, humans can be unpredictable, but for most things, humans are creatures of habit.
Yeah, agreed.
We do things like we do certain things because we're like, it makes us comfortable. We know it works. We know it's gonna trigger your dopamine, depending what the issue is. You know what I mean? So it's creatures of habit. I like an AI definitely would be able to pick up on that, and proper safeguards obviously being in place. One of the things that like I've always kind of thought about with AI is, you're saying like plan out your day, right? I'm somebody who just tries to always like pack my day with as much as I can. Just like, I've got two sons, wife, three dogs. I work a full-time job. I'm doing the podcast thing. I've been messing with doing some children's books. I'm in a fraternity. I just, plus once in a blue moon, I find time to play Diablo 4 and Mortal Kombat. Once in a blue moon, I'll squeeze some time in there and I'll just like binge play for like 6 hours.
I love the binge. The binge play is the way to do it. But yeah, sorry,
Oh
go ahead.
yeah, well, when Diablo 4 first came out, I think I outside of working, I played that for like 2 weeks straight. Pretty sure my wife was wondering if she was still married at that point. It's and I think it can do things like that because I'm just a guy where I'm like, you know what, I'm not a master at any one thing, but I've learned a lot about everything and I can do a lot of things. Like I'm not a master electrician, but you know what? Residential wise, I can run power. I ran a power line from my house, buried it in my garage, built myself a studio out here. I've got two dedicated power lines going to my garage from inside the house, and one's for lights and outlets, and then one's for HVAC.
Pretty sick, actually.
Yeah, and I learned it right, but I'm not a guy who, like, if you call the electrical inspector over, I mean, it should pass based on what I do know, right? But I'm not a pro. I just kind of like, I look at certain things and I go, you know what? I want to figure that out. And then I just start going after it and I become obsessive with it. Like, I will just obsess with it and I will buy a gajillion. Like, I have so many electrician's tools that I've only used a handful of times, but I wanted to know, and I think that that's where AI can help people just in general, right? Like, because that's some of that stuff takes so much time, but AI can help you kind of minimize that, but still get what you're looking for out of it.
Yeah, I agree. I think AI is a gift for the self learners and the people who actually learn. Because, like you said, you're good at a bunch of things, but not too great at anything. But you now with AI, if you know the base of what to look for, like for example, electric schools, you know the base, you can use AI to get that much more effective. And I guess I believe in balance too, so we can talk about the spheres of AI too. So like for me, you people who are self learning, like I use it to teach me lessons. I'm like, okay, give me 100-day lessons on how to become polymath, and it gave me that. I do those daily, and it greatly helps. But that's for people who like to learn. Think of how good AI is going to be at serving people ads in the future too, and just absorbing it and wasting mind space. Because like, for example, the app or ChatGPT, the food thing, like it's already getting to know you on a pretty good basis. But once it gets to know you, and like the video content, it's going to be able to get to know you and spin up video content ads specifically tailored for you at the right time of day with your right mood. So that's something that could be scary. But then the person just kind of, I mean, they have to use discernment at that point in time, and that's really all.
So here, I got one that might challenge you a little bit on terms. I
Okay.
guess it could be fear, but more of like in the gaming community. We'll say it like that.
Yeah.
We'll put it just as like, so to me, I feel like games like, behind here, like Mortal Kombat 2, games like that, right? That outside of you didn't have a code, like, but it felt like you were a lot more engaged for a longer period of time. Whereas a lot of games now, there's so much walkthrough and so much stuff, but also with how we are today, if you didn't have that, people aren't engaged, right? But people also become, unless it's something like a GTA type of game or World of Warcraft, but most games people kind of get burned out on. But the nostalgic games like that from like back in the day, it kept you coming back for more. It was these games are some of the most simplest things in the planet, but something about it drew it in. How can AI help bridge that gap from how people were able to just dive in, 40 years ago into a game and just, like one of the original Zeldas, right? Like if you're over the
Favorite
age,
Ocarina of Time, favorite game of all time.
right? Like,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, there wasn't a ton of walkthrough with it,
There
but
was
it
not.
didn't matter. You were just in it. And now a lot of games are kind of like after a while, you're kind of like, but 40 years ago, you're like, man, or not
There is no
40, 30,
There's
yeah,
no game facts. There is no YouTube tutorials. If you want to beat the boss, you just have to struggle until you beat the boss. I like
right.
similar games too. So I like the solar player Zeldas, like Metro Prime, Bioshock. Obviously, like
Yeah.
Halo, but I like the big walkthrough games that just kind of take, like, you finish the game, it's like 40 hours later of gameplay, and you're still not even done. And I do love spitballing about this because, like, let's say let's use Zelda for example. Like, you finish the game, you know the side quest. Theoretically, once the AI gets smart enough, it can create its own side quest, so it could be never ending, which I think could be pretty cool. So, like, that Goron sword. I don't know if you remember that, where you had to do the
Heard
whole
of it.
bunch of. Oh, the big Goron sword. Have you ever got
Yeah.
that? Yeah, like, you do a bunch of random stuff, and it's kind of confusing. So it could theoretically be able to balance the difficulty of the game based on your skill, and then add different quests to get this goal. So, like, you if you just had your son was like 4 years old and he was completely the Goron sword, it could know that he's the one playing it, and then it could reduce the skill to something he could actually do. And for you, it would just bump up the skill, which could be cool.
Yeah.
And then it could infinitely create quests too, based on what you're doing and based on the gameplay. And this is something I like about AI because I'm a big comic books fan and all that stuff, and I don't like how they're kind of butchering comic books because I like anime and stuff. So what I could do is I could upload one of my favorite manga chapters. Like, once VO gets good, and like, it's only like 8 seconds, but eventually it's gonna be full movies. I can upload my favorite series, and then create a movie without all the bullshit that's been included in all that. So the same thing could apply to games. So, like, yeah, it's like you can play your Zelda game and you can beat Ganon the final time, but then it can just straight up go into Mask and Majora, and then it can go into different worlds, and you can fight Ganon again and do a bunch of different things, and it can be constantly adapting to keeping the sweep spot of playing. And then the lore itself could be endless too, because, like, it could just keep making up stuff based on the base Zelda. So the base is there. The base Zelda is still the same, but it could just keep in that endless loop of playing, which honestly, it would get me pretty hard if I had that, where you just could keep playing Zelda over and over again.
Yeah.
Because again, like, I've replayed Ocarina of Time, like, honestly, 5 to 10 times, and, like, I've seen Nintendo. And as a kid, that was hard to do. Like, I remember one of the funniest scenes is random. Do you remember the first scene when your kid Link and you're in the waters, you're in the Zora place, and then you feed the king the fish, and he just kind of scoots over. I remember.
You're talking about Ocarina of Time, right?
I'm talking about Ocarina of Time, yeah.
Yeah. God, what was there? I know what you're talking about. There was also one where it was it or Ocarina of Time? I can't remember. Was it like a wind tunnel or like a when he stepped in it, he like went like way up in the air, and I think it was I forgot what. I would have to look that part. It's been so long since I played it. The one Zelda game that I still to this day probably play at least I don't know 3 4 times a year. The original gold cartridge from
Which one was it?
NES. The very first game, the very first Zelda game, and it's like a gold cartridge. It's just a platformer, 2D. And for whatever reason, I can jump on that thing and just be hours and hours and hours, and then I'm like, oh man, I'm on like dungeon 5 or 6 or level set, and I'm like, oh okay, well, I'm here, and there's just so much that's like hidden in there. Some of it I still remember. Ironically, 30 something years later, I'm like, oh yeah, I still remember I remember you go right there and you put the bomb right there and it explodes it and opens it up for that extra thing. And I feel like
Maybe we don't want AI to mess with that if they don't want it to. maybe we could just play the original game, but if we want the optionality to enhance the
Yes,
game,
yeah,
you have
that's
both, and I think that wins. Because honestly, like now that I'm just talking about it, yeah, it sounds cool in theory, just to add Infinite Quest, but I don't know, I like the original game too.
yeah. It's probably one of my
Yeah,
favorite games of all time, top three. You
100%.
know, for me, Mortal Kombat One's probably my favorite game of all
Yeah, I could
time.
see
The
that.
very first one came out in the early '90s. I remember being a young guy sitting, not sitting, but standing in the arcade, and you had to take a quarter,
Yeah,
and you had to put it on the ledge of
I
the
remember that.
arcade machine,
It
and you
just
had to wait your turn.
your parents are like, why are you just eating quarters?
Yeah, well, my dad would always be like, "Where are you going?" And I'm like this little kid, right? And I'm like, "I'm going to the store to play games." My dad just looked at me like, "What's wrong with you?" He'd be like, whatever. Just come home by this time and don't cause no trouble."
That's reasonable.
Okay, deuces, man. See you later. And then the next thing you know, I'm actually on my bike riding 10 miles to an arcade.
That
Yeah, I
sounds
did
like
go
a
to a store, but not the one I told him I was going to.
yeah. He doesn't need to know.
Yeah, it was good times back then, but yeah, no, I think AI just like from things like to like medical gaming. I know AI has like been a real, I'm from Detroit, and AI has been huge with aiding the auto companies with electric car design and the engineers and all that. I don't know like the full details, but I know like they talk about it a lot. Like it's like a big focus. Like Ford Motor Company just renovated. It was like they used to call it one of the highlights of Detroit blight. It was like the pinpoint of, hey, Detroit is dead. Ford Motor Company bought it a couple of years ago, and now it's going to be this technology hub where it's going to be like they're going to use things like AI for helping with engineering, and they're using it to design electric cars, other items. It's now this big tech hub. They're working on bringing trains back through it.
Huh. Did not
And
know that.
yeah, and it's crazy. Like they're just this part of Detroit that I don't know 15, 16 years ago was like outside of like it had all kind of got started this little barbecue place there. It's called Slow's Barbecue, and then the guy's
I
food.
bet you that place is good.
It is. I mean, for like 10 years, if you wanted to go there for dinner, it was like 2 3 hour wait,
Yeah, okay, it's one of those.
and it just became such this big thing. And then it became people from around the country whenever they would come in any random area of Detroit, they would go there. Celebrities went there, and next thing you know, it just kind of started spreading out, spreading out, spreading out, and then the area just started getting like so many people wanting to be there. Companies started buying up all the abandoned buildings, fixing them up, and then Ford's like, "Hey, the younger crowd wants to be here. Let's buy the train station and move all our engineers here." And it's like, and so like AI's just been like a big focus of it. Detroit also, they use kind of AI to help design. It's on Woodward Avenue in Detroit, the first charging road in the United States.
Well, that's cool. I didn't know that. I didn't know those are here yet.
Yeah, it's not a very big stretch. I believe it's on Woodward, Michigan. I'm pretty sure it's Woodward though, which is like the main corridor road in downtown Detroit. But you drive over it, and somehow it charges your electric car while you're driving.
Did you check
And
out the robo? Did you check out the robo taxis yet? Have you heard about those?
I've heard about them. I haven't looked too much into it. I believe Elon Musk said today like you could have a ride for like $4 or something like that. It was
Yeah,
something.
420. So I think that's going to pair very well with what Ford's doing with the recharging roads. So I think we're building like a new AI based ecosystem. And again, you have the option to drive if you want, but at the same point in time, if you want to like have AI design, it's going to be able to find the quickest path for you pretty quickly. And on top of that, the engineers like like you can just like you can whip up designs and like paintings and videos and all that stuff much quicker.
Yeah,
Engineers can ideate much quicker but they're the ones still prompting the AI. So you still need the best engineers designing the car, but now the top engineers like doing the work of like 10 engineers,
right.
which
Have
is
the
going
other
to crank out cool things for us because you can just ideate really quickly with AI.
where me as on a personal level, desire wise, where I need AI to really like help out is I'm not one who believes that electric cars are the pure answer for the future. I believe hydrogen powered cars are. The reason being is I'm from a cold climate, right? I mean, things have been a little bit warmer last several years, but overall, it's still pretty cold climate. Like we'll still have weeks where it'll be like below zero. So in that kind of weather, like the battery capacity like drops significantly. And I had a lady that worked for me. She drove like, and if she forgot to charge her car for whatever reason, she would have to be at work, parked up near a spot with an extension cord going into the store. Because we don't, Detroit being the auto capital of the USA, essentially, quote unquote, gasoline cars are still the dominant, you know, the dominant thing here, and a lot of people here are becoming accepting of electric cars to a degree, but a lot of people here are still like, oh, look at that guy. I've got my Camaro, like, classic cars, muscle cars, things that like probably kill you if you breathe the exhaust too long. Those are still the dominant product in Detroit, you know. And listen, I drive a 2017 50, but
Sweet.
I've got the Eco Boost engine in there where like when you're at a red light, kicks off, and I drive the V6. I use it a lot for work and stuff, so it's not like I'm just like driving this truck around to be cool. It's kind of nice. Before that, I had one that had a V8 and it only got like 8 miles at the gallon. This thing gets like 20 something, almost 30 miles. But hydrogen, where I think like AI can really help it is obviously making it more efficient to extract the energy from it. Because I believe right now hydrogen loses like 50 some odd percent of its energy in the process from production to being used in the car. And where electric I believe is at like 75%, 80%, somewhere in that ballpark. But where like so like you're in California, right? So I don't know, do they still have the rolling blackout problems there?
I haven't dealt with it in actually years, so
Okay,
no,
no, so that's a
never.
great thing. I just remember that was
Yeah,
a thing, right? So
yeah.
like here in Michigan, like especially where I'm at, older neighborhood, right? There's just all these power lines everywhere. So to me, like where the challenge is like, okay, can AI help them design a grid that actually can support mass electric cars? Because I'm like, man, right now, if we get a bad enough storm, everybody's out of power. What is everybody gonna do? Call off work tomorrow because they couldn't charge their car?
No, it
You know,
just the problem gets worse.
right? So it's in like here in Michigan now. They during the week, Monday through Friday, from like 3 p.m. to 7 p.m., they double your electric rates
It's kind of annoying,
because it's
but it
called
makes
peak.
sense.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
peak
yeah.
time to reduce the demand, right? And I'm going, I get the principle behind it, right? But if you're telling everybody to drive an electric car, how does it work? So, and hydrogen, while it can't use an existing oil pipeline, it's very similar technology because a lot of hydrogen that's used to power things is derived from natural gas. In the United States, is I think we're like top three in the natural gas reserves in the world. And, but there's also other ways to, extract hydrogen too, not just that. That's just the most abundant and cheapest way. But to me, we already have a lot of the infrastructure in place to where we could adapt that. And it's like, okay, how can AI, obviously, that's not necessarily like my background for that, right? But it's like, how can AI like really help to me, like help industries like really like grasp this? Because, like everybody's, to me, the only reason why electric cars are what they are now is because they've been so backed by the government so much. To where if it was kind of left to its own devices, kind of like cars were 100 years ago, like, hey, may the best product win. I don't know if electric would have got that amount of investment because of the batteries. Where if you had a hydrogen powered car, you could still do a charge, but now you've got a fuel to where you're not limited.
So I guess the roundabout way I would think that could potentially help, and this is going off the conspiracy theory that the guy you heard about the guy who created the car that can run on water and they killed him,
Yeah,
which I believe they probably did. So
yeah. I mean, because you can use it to compress. Water can be compressed and explode. So not like light a
yeah.
flame, but it can be compressed.
So AI, the reason he was able to do that is AI could enhance the research capabilities of people to figure stuff like that out while simultaneously limiting the power of the government. And that would work in tandem with cryptocurrency. So the reason I'm so into cryptocurrency is I think cryptocurrency creates a value creation incentive versus a value extraction incentive. So, for example, if I want to become rich as possible without doing any work, how do I do that? I place myself right next to the Federal Reserve money printer, and as they print, I just take my money, be on my merry way. But that results in you losing money and me losing money every single time that, or not me in this case, but everyone else losing money every single
Yeah,
time
the
that
value
happens.
drops.
And now I have a position of power because I have access to unlimited money. And now, if you run against me, you'll lose against me because I have access to the money. And now I bring three people who are my friends in, and it creates a system of corruption at the top. Whereas in a Bitcoin world, how if I want to get as much Bitcoin as possible, how do I do that? Well, I can't inflate it away from you. I can't take it away from you. So if I want your Bitcoin, Joseph, I would have to create something of value, and then you'd have to voluntarily give me your Bitcoin. So the AI enhanced researching capabilities to develop more technologies like the water car that should be a thing, in my opinion, with that plus the limited supply of money in the government, whereas like if there's a limited supply of money, you can't just throw all the money at the EVs. Like you can't just throw infinite money. It's a more fair system. So it's like, okay, now we don't have a lot of money. We actually have to do the best thing. And then that could simultaneously help free up the, I guess, the hydrogen cars. And that would go back to the thing of authenticity and people using AI to leverage their natural talents and gifts. Like, for example, the guy who created the water car, I am sure that's what he just happened to be passionate about. But now, not, it's like, I don't know, have you seen the movie about like the ants, like Bug's Life?
Yeah, I've seen parts of it with my kid when I'm awake.
Yeah. All right. So you remember like when one little cricket can stand up to the grasshoppers and get shot down, but when they all stand up, they can overtake them. So I think AI and cryptocurrency do that for us normal people against the ruling elite who have just been kind of extracting value for their whole lives.
Yeah, yeah, and I think where people like get a little unsure about Bitcoin is the volatility that can happen with it. You know, I mean, the stock market's just as volatile, right? I mean, so that's no different in that aspect. But I think we're because I'm totally all for going towards Bitcoin because or even crypto, not just necessarily Bitcoin. Right? I believe Argentina or is it El Salvador? One of those countries went to
El
prime. Is it El Salvador?
Salvador, they adopted a Bitcoin standard, so they started to buy on a daily basis. And I think a couple of them other countries have made like stable coins based on a Bitcoin. So it's not like Bitcoin itself, but like the digital lira. I think it was probably I think it was like I think it was Argentina who had tried making their own. It was a chainsaw guy who tried making his own thing, and then El Salvador is the one who
Yeah.
got the Bitcoin standard. It
So
stems the corruptions.
the foundation's already there. Argentina, I believe their president would be, well, not completely, but some of his general idea of thinking would be what we would call libertarian here. With some, not everything that he does, but some of his approaches are very libertarian approaches. But
Yes.
like where I think like AI, so I have like a basic opinion of, I'll say a basic, but nothing in its pure form is good. So like you can't have pure capitalism, right? Because human nature is someone's going to take advantage of someone somewhere.
Yes.
So like to me, same like where communism is flawed is communism expects everybody to be okay with what they got and march to. And it's like,
So that
well,
turned out.
yeah, I mean, it's just it doesn't take into the fact the human factor. You know, it doesn't take that into account. You know, it's just communism. China's communist per se, but it works there to a degree because they mix capitalism. You know, they've brought the like pure communism. I mean, case in point, North Korea, it doesn't work. But like where like I think like with AI, like okay, hey, you got to have like a little bit of that human factor in there. And the reason why I say that is that some people will be like, well, hey, what if for whatever reason you had this crazy dude in a basement somewhere that believes the whole world should die because he's having a bad day. He's extremely smart. Where's the off switch?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean,
That's
yeah, that's kind of gnarly.
when I talk to a lot of people, and I know like there's no easy answers for it, right? But that's what people are afraid of. They're afraid of like because there's evil people out there, right? I mean, it's just very minority, less than 1% of the population. I think. I
But
mean, it's
you could
true,
get that cracked guy who's just straight up cracked, but he's also happens to be evil,
right? And
and now
that's
he has the means to.
and I think that, and then obviously, and I know I kind of like harp on this, but I truly think because pop culture breeds a lot of how people grow up, how they think, how they feel, right? And I think that Terminator 2 Skynet thing is just ingrained in society now, right? So when people look at AI, they see even if they've never seen the movie, they just see that type of thinking, right? That's just it's kind of like I don't
No,
know, like
it's what you think of. It's like
right. It's like I mean, I don't know, what do they say? The cold doesn't make you sick, germs do, type of thing. You know what I mean? Where, well, the cold can cause hypothermia, which makes you sick, But it's just that old thing where somebody said that at one point, and now it's just what everybody thinks about, whether it's based in fact or not, So that's, people just, they have this thing of like, if something goes wrong, how do we turn it off? Like, from your perspective, I mean, obviously, I know there's probably no easy answer, right? But just from your perspective, how could something like that be accomplished?
yeah. So for the Terminator situation, I guess you would just turn off the robots. So you can always turn off the power to the guy's house if you catch him doing evil. But if he releases like a virus code type thing to shut off power, then you would need AI to kind of fight it. But then that doesn't solve the real issue of him actually creating it in the first place. I mean, you could use AI pattern recognition to try to capture it before it gets big. So you could be like, okay, this guy. So I think AI, like going back to the example of like the medical fields where it's like scanning people over and over again, they could pick up diseases. Like it could pick up that this guy is probably not good, but then that could also create a situation where it's falsely accusing people, and then we don't want that either because that's like the Google situation where it's just flagging people indiscriminately, and the flagging source could be corrupt itself. So in that situation, you want a human to actually investigate it too. So it'd be like, okay, good detective, here's the people who we determined to be good or who have a high risk for. So basically, it's like 24, where instead of Jack Bauer has to like interrogate like 100 people, he now knows the 5 should actually look at, and they can better prevent that. So that's how I would solve it. But like, I don't know if he's that cracked. We might be kind of fucked. But then we need the good cracked people to fight him up. So,
Yeah, it's just,
like, there's no answer to that.
it's
Like,
just
it's a valid concern too,
right, and
honestly.
it's just like when I talk to people who maybe aren't as technological inclined, or even if they are, they're just not as like trusting of it as a lot of other people are. Like I trust technology, but I also I grew up in the world where I grew up from the analog world to the digital world, right? So I
Yeah.
got to experience like hey, you should do this, but not that. Whereas my sons grew up in an all digital world, so I have to be the one that's going to like, hey, this, not that, right? But it's dangerous in that aspect, but like the people who didn't learn those things, right, that are old, that just haven't transitioned, or they just don't completely trust it. When I talk to you, like they're just in general, I can be like, oh yeah, I'm doing AI videos, blah blah blah, and I'm like, oh okay, like man,
Cool.
my sister being one of them. I sent my sister this, because my dad died before my kids were born, right? So I was just like, and I see these videos like, oh hey, these like dead people per se brought them back to life. They've aged them. So I was like, I got some pictures of my grandpa, my dad, my kids, and all that. And I had like a video of them all just kind of hanging around. And it was like 50% accurate. Like there'd be scenes where I would be like, man, that's my dad. But then the very next scene, wearing the same outfit and everything, I'm like, who the fuck is that? And I'm like, how are you so smart right there, but messed it up right there? Like you're using it's using the same image reference. You know what I mean? So I think that's where sometimes people are kind of like, I don't know. Like I don't know, how do I trust that? I mean, to me, like I get it, but my sister was like, "Ooh, be careful! You're using AI and you're putting pictures in it." And I'm like, "Well, your pictures are on Facebook.
Yeah.
If
Like
you
you
were
could,
worried about that, you should have never got on social media."
yeah. If anything, social media is probably. I'd rather you have the photos than like Mark Zuckerberg, to be honest. Anyways.
Right. I mean, it's it's. I was very surprised because my sister's like 15, 16 years younger than me, something like that. And I'm sitting there, I'm going, how are you so untrusting of AI? And I'm over here like I'm an old geezer. I'm only 40. I'm not that old, but compared to her, I am. And she's like, something just bothers me about it. I'm like, you're afraid of the wrong things, man. I'm like,
Not she's not incorrect. So the problem with AI content right now is it's fake and it's inauthentic. So I think people are naturally inclined to go against fake stuff. So for example, when you played when you reenacted the family tour, she's like, that's not real. I don't like that. I feel to see that's not the way it looked, which is why like for example, fake AI influencers, I think they fail. To some people it's inherently deceptive. But as AI gets better and better, like for example, I was against AI video at first when I was just like stupid stuff like Will Smith eating spaghetti. But now it's actually getting kind of good. I'm like, okay, well, I'll actually use it now. I'm actually looking into it because it got to the point where it's usable. I think what would need so for her to get into AI, they're just someone's gonna have to invent a product or service where she uses AI and it benefits her life, and then she's like, it's not that bad. Like for example, if she were single, when she uses a dating app, she's like, all right, well, it's kind of good, and then that kind of opens the door up for her in the future. And I think we're about to enter the AI tech boom with a bunch of people because like AI now with Cursor and stuff, you can mass produce products. So there's going to be an AI product for everyone. And the cool thing about this though is people are going to gravitate to the authentic projects that they actually like because there's going to be so many of them. And with the AI video content, I suspect what's going to happen is people are going to get so sick of AI videos because like if 90% of the internet's dead already, imagine what happens when people start mass producing video content. And I think very soon, so within like 6 to 10 months, we'll reach the peak, and we'll know the peak when like all the stupid mega corporations are producing cringeworthy stuff, and people are like, all right, enough of that. And I think they'll gravitate back to authentic content. Like this is why I'm going to podcast. I think people are going to gravitate back to podcasts versus like AI fake generated content, and they'll gravitate to more authentic things. It's like like it's like like Walmart and stuff took over, but it's like most people still prefer to go to the mom and pop shop. So I think AI is going to help bring people together after getting sick. So like the way I look at the internet is like there's Web 1, Web 2, Web 3, Web 4, Web 5. Web 1 is read only. So by the way, I have to go in like 5 minutes for dinner, but like Web 1 is read only. So you can go online, you can read stuff, which is like helpful because information spreads. Web 2 is read and write, and that's kind of what we're in now. So that's social media. You can read content. I can write an Instagram post. You can read my Instagram post. But the issue is Instagram owns the post, so they can cancel us for whatever reason they want. Web3 is like the crypto version of the internet, so it's read, write, and own. So with Bitcoin, if you think of money as content, which I do, if you can see your Bitcoin, but you own your Bitcoin, so I can't take away your Bitcoin. Amazon can't take away your Bitcoin. The government can't take away your Bitcoin. Only you can take away your Bitcoin because it's your Bitcoin. I would say Web 4 is like, I think we're going to enter that relatively soon. It's like a Ready Player One type of thing with like AR, VR, crypto, that whole thing. And I think Web 5 is when everyone gets sick of it and just kind of goes back outdoors. But with the ops, so I think time's like a spiral. So it seems like it's circling, but it's spiraling up. So like, yes, people are going to be more focused on outdoors, but now we have the benefits of AI and all that stuff and enhanced life while having the focus of outdoors. So it's not like the previous cycle where you just didn't have internet or anything like that. It's like we have all that, but we also just like the outdoors. I think that's a natural progression we have to go on. And to get there, you have to be bombarded with stuff. So like, I like King of the Hill. Do you watch? Do you watch?
Yeah, I think that's.
Yeah,
I don't know if it's gonna be permanent, but like a 10 episode series.
I definitely want to see. You remember the scene where Hank catches Bobby smoking,
Yes.
and he makes him smoke all the cigarettes. He gets sick. So we had to go through that with AI content.
I tell you
To
what.
Yeah, they'll grow. I said this funny as we go to my friend. So my friend moved to New York and went to Texas. So we're like, we sent the reel like we're gonna do this at his house too when we visit. We're just gonna put I love New York places everywhere because obviously he's gonna hate it. And then so we'll find like the I love New York. We're gonna make it gay too, just like the rainbow stickers. So like he'll have people in Texas over, and then they'll come up and like they'll open his cover, just like a little rainbow flag, like California, New York thing.
I think I'm gonna make a. I think I'm gonna make a video of Hank Hill and Peggy Hill breakdancing to that Tupac AC/DC match.
That'd be sick, actually. That's a good. See, that's a fun. No, see, I think that's been the sweet spot for AI too. That I found people liking. Like for example, that it's like you're not trying to be a real person. It's like I'm not trying to recreate you and then make you do something you're not doing. It's like I clearly know Hank Hill and Peggy aren't real people breakdancing Tupac. That's why I find that. It's like if you notice what's been taking off now, like the vlog trends and all that stuff, like the Yeti vlog, the Starship things, like well, it's because we know they're not real. We're just like, oh, okay, well, that's a funny way to use it, and
we enjoy it. We enjoy.
Yeah, we enjoy it, and it's not being forced to. Where it's like,
oh yeah. No, I totally get that. But yeah, I really enjoyed this episode tonight, man.
Dude, let's stay in touch.
Yeah, I'm definitely down to do more in the future, especially boasting to be a little bit of sports fans. As the football season gets closer, we can definitely. I know AI plays a big role in a lot of sports stuff.
Oh yeah, I'm actually, man. Oh, we can probably do a deep. That'd be fun to do a deep dive on that because at that point, like early in the season, we can see what they're doing and then we can just talk about it.
Yeah, and deep dive because I know like a lot of them talk about a lot of play cards go. They use analytics to kind of 80% chance this, that, so that's just kind of cool. But yeah, man, yeah, I'll definitely stay in touch. I'll send you all the information for everything. I appreciate it, man. Thanks for being on, and it definitely was a great episode. I always enjoy learning things and just hearing different perspectives, right? And like I said, the goal was to give people a reason to not be so afraid.
Yeah, I agree. Honestly, dude, I think I enjoy talking to you as a person. Like you're a great host and everything, but I also enjoy talking to you as a person. I think if you're ever in the LA, California area, definitely I'll add you on social and stuff, but definitely reach out and we can grab like a beer.
Yeah, man, most definitely. Most definitely. Yeah. I'd appreciate that, man.
And maybe if you come during football season, I can scoop some of my brother's season tickets.
Yeah, man. Go see the Rams, man.
Yeah.
See Stafford play before he rides off into the sunset forever.
Dude, the fucking SoFi is a beautiful city. I like SoFi.
And the ironic part is they use AI to market.
Oh, do they?
Yeah, they use AI. They track where you come in, and then
Yeah.
yeah, and then they like target like especially if you're a regular, they target like specific products to go to your phone
God,
for
that's
like
gnarly. But yeah,
the dine-ins that are yeah, oh yeah, man, I've learned all about the. I'm big into not just the NFL, but like I love looking at like stadium designs and all that work. It's just crazy. But all right, man. Yeah, I'll shoot you an email a little bit later, and I'll get links to any edits or anything. You know, I generally just publish a video and then create a couple shorts. So I'll shoot that over to you in an email later, and then yeah, I'll shoot an email too. We can figure something out, man, and go from there.
so, sounds good.
All right, thanks, Eric. Have a good one.
You too. Hey, Joseph.